With the wind blowing in your hair, we can look back someday. Baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand. Yeah, we only get one life. I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
And welcome to our vlog. You join us on a
Wet and windy day.
horrible
Although I
out there.
don't think it's raining at the moment, but it's quite windy out there, and it's a pretty wet October day.
Yeah, not very nice at all.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So we've decided to stay indoors and record this video.
yeah, we thought we'd do this video for you and get this one out of the way, because I'm sure lots of other people would rather see us cruising. But
Yeah. So this is number 3 of the Lithium installation, and if you want to see the other 2, you can go to the playlist on our videos, and
Somewhere.
Pat will try and put a link, or I'll try and put a link in the description below to the playlist for the Lithium ones. And of course, if you want to see all of our videos, you can go to our playlist and click on
Start from
the beginning of our journey.
We're going to be talking specifically about installation of our lithiums. We've spoken about the reasons why we needed to buy lithiums. We've spoken about where we're going to install them and the preparations for that. And now this is kind of the technical talk on how we're going to do that. What are the reasons behind it? We've got a list of things that we're going to go through. But Eileen's not going to be here.
No.
For a little while.
No, I'm going to exit this little bit, and Pat's going to do it on his own. But if you'd like to subscribe to our videos,
We'd love you to subscribe to our videos.
Yep, it's free.
And
once you've subscribed, if you hit the bell icon, YouTube will notify you every time we release a new video.
Indeed.
And if you want to contact us, you can contact us via the comments down below each video, and we answer every comment, don't we?
Well, yes, you do.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I'm a bit slow, but I get there in the end.
Yeah. So in this video, we're just going to be talking quite technical. So if you're not that technically minded about things, then maybe this isn't the video for you. But if you want to follow along, I'll try and add in some information for people that are perhaps not quite up to scratch with electrical systems. I'll try and make them so that everybody gets to understand at least the principles behind it, if not the whole thing. But so stick with it. I'm hoping that there's at least going to be 1 or 2 people out there that enjoy this. I know that I've spoken to several people, and they've said they've been waiting for this one to come along. Don't know quite how this is going to work out. We're going to have to see as we go along.
Yeah.
I'll bring up a picture of all the items as we go along, and we'll go from there. So
let's get on with it.
Yeah. So are you going to leave?
Yeah.
Huh? Bye then. We're going to try and get through this as quickly and as painlessly as we possibly can. So to do that, what I've got is you'll see that there's some graphs and a screen that I'm going to put up very shortly, and hopefully I'm going to be in the bottom left hand corner of the screen still, with any luck, or at least I'll be somewhere on the screen. The Dunworkin Lithium system install. We're going to look at the expansion of the new system. We're going to look at what is on the system and why. We're going to look at the new Lynx busbar system and busbars in general. We'll talk about those because some people have asked about those. The Orions and how they work, the Orion DCD controllers and how they tie in with the alternators, and the Servo control system, which as a controls engineer I was very interested in. It's quite a big subject, that one. the inverter and why we've installed a new inverter, and that will become very plain to see why we've had to change the inverter. How the generator ties in with the whole system, how it actually works and how it ties in. The cable sizes, we'll touch on cable sizing and fuses, but that will be something that will just really be a brief overview of fuses. The control strategy for the whole system and the fan and cooling system. So on we go with the next. This is the, if you like, my official schematic drawing. This is what we've ended up using and working to. You can see from this that it's quite comprehensive. There are a number of things that allow you to do these are the, just to sort of show you, these are the links distribution system, and this is the busbar system. We'll go further in detail into that a little bit later on. One thing to remember is that this schematic drawing was originally drawn by Victron, and I have made some alterations to this. The original battery system that was done in there is the two 300 amp hour battery cells. We have not fitted two. We still fitted 600 amps, but we fitted three 200 amp hour batteries. We've also fitted the a new system over the back here. We've fitted for the alternator and the generator batteries. So what I'll do is I'll move on to the next slide, and we'll see each piece as we go along. Okay, what we've got here is we've got the battery installation. As you can see, we've installed a new compartment at the bottom of the cupboard, which we showed you in an earlier video. You can see here we've got the links, part of the links system at the bottom, which is the input part of the links system. Now these links systems, they come in three parts really. They're called distributors. This particular piece is called a distributor, and I'll show you a close-up picture of that a little bit further on. You can see that these are all the cables that are coming out and going to each of the batteries. Our three 200 amp lithium batteries. You can see all of the connections that are made. Just to say that each one of these connections that are made are exactly the same length. The cable that comes out of the links distributor and goes round, the reason they're coiled back on themselves is because if you was to remove all of these cables, every single cable is exactly the same length. That is a very important part of installing batteries correctly in a system, is that you have exactly the same length of cables. Therefore there's no additional resistance. Each cable will have its own resistance factor, its own resistance value, and dependent upon the length of that cable, the resistance could be high or low. Obviously a shorter cable will have a lower resistance, and obviously the longer cables will have a higher resistance. What the idea is that you keep each of the cables exactly the same length, so that they all have an equal resistance, so that each battery actually is in exactly the same position as the other, even though in physical terms they're not, but in electrical terms they are in exactly the same place. The other thing you'll notice on here, we've got a shelf part which is put in, which basically will have a, you'll see in other pictures, there will be a lid to this particular compartment, and this is what I meant about compartmentalizing the batteries into a separate area. So on to the next slide. We may go backwards and forwards on this a little bit just to explain those particular areas, but some of the features that this particular system has to have, and all battery systems have to have, are isolators. Now you can see the isolators to the left hand side here, and I'll just bring the you can see those on the schematic drawing there, and every system must have an isolator. So far what we've actually looked at is we've looked at, if I put a slice through here, actually if I put it in a different colour, let's just change that to a different colour. If I slice through there like that, that is the battery compartment, and you can see that we've actually sliced through where the link system would be, and so the input part where all the cables come in are just in the battery compartment unit. Okay, so we'll go back to this. So you can see here below that we have this is foam rubber that's put along the front there in order to seal the compartment. There's foam rubber actually up that side and out this side as well, so that the batteries themselves actually sit within this compartment, and therefore there is no heat that goes from this area up to the inverter. That's the idea of putting the compartment below. You can see in this drawing, you can just about see that there's a vent hole here. In another drawing I'll show you the ventilation system. In another drawing I'll show you the ventilation system for that. So that's really the expansion part of what we've done. That gives you an overview of the whole thing. This is the, as I say, the schematic drawing. Just gives you an overview. We'll work through each individual piece separately. So let's go back to our. So we've done that part of it. What's on the system and why? Just a brief reason as to why we've gone specifically for this whole integration. When we installed the lithium batteries, or when we were doing the investigations for that, we found that the inverter that we originally had, which was a Vitus inverter, although it could potentially charge and do the lithium batteries, the difficulty was knowing and making sure that it would actually have the correct charging regime in it, and also as you'll appreciate, with the compartment that we've got, if I go forward a bit, with the compartment that we've got, you can see that the size of the compartment, we don't have a great deal of room in the bottom of the cupboard. Now the whole thing was put in order to keep it as small as possible. As you can see, the multi-plus inverter, which is this thing here, is quite small. I can give you the exact measurements, but it's not relevant at this particular time. All of the equipment that we've got, this particular piece of equipment that's here, by the way, this one that I'm just drawing a box around, that is our generator inverter. That takes a 3-phase input direct from the generator and converts it into 230 volts, and then puts that into our inverter, and that is what basically gives us our 230 volts from the generator. So go back to the beginning. That's why. The link system specifically, we're going to look at the link system specifically. So I'm going to pull up a drawing here, pull up this schematic and focus that in a little bit closer. We'll talk about each section because there are 3 sections to this link system. Just to say that a buzz bar system, I'll draw a quick explanation of a buzz bar system. Basically a buzz bar system would be a solid bar with another solid bar with fuses linked between them. Okay, and then you would have a cable that come off this side and this side and this side and here and here and here. And what would happen is that allows you then to have these fuses in case there's a problem on the circuit. If there's a short circuit, the fuse will blow, and that will allow you to isolate specific lines. Obviously with a buzz bar system like that, you can see that takes up quite a lot of room. I'll just wipe that out. I'll bring the link system in. You have a similar type of thing on the link system. You still have a buzz bar, which is this part here. I'll do that a little bit smaller. Let's just make that a little bit smaller. Okay, so you see that we have a buzz bar here, and we also have a buzz bar here, and in between are the fuses. Okay, so on the input side, this particular unit is input from the batteries, from both of the batteries that are on this drawing. Obviously we've got 3. We'll come in, we'll go across that fuse and then go out on the buzz bar. Now that buzz bar is also then connected directly internally to the BMS. It then continues through and connects up there. So it's one solid bar up to 1000 amps will go through. This is the red side and that's the neutral side. Sorry, the other way round. Getting my drawings wrong way around. So from that you can see that actually having fuses in the system can be much neater because they're much closer together. They're all in one line, and for us in particular, where we've got a board through here to cut off to isolate the batteries from the inverter, this has allowed me to just have a small hole for them to come through, and that's the only cables that go through that particular section of the buzz bar. So the next section, we'll zoom in a bit closer. Let's just get rid of that. So we don't have too many lines. We'll zoom in a little bit. It's a little bit out of focus, but we'll show you a close-up of that a little bit further on. This section here is called the BMS. Now BMS to me as a controls engineer stood for a building management system. BMS. This is actually a battery management systems, but there's lots of systems that deal with lots of different things. But in essence, it's a controller. In essence, it has some kind of intelligence inside it, albeit switching intelligence, has a computer chip inside it, and basically does have some sort of controls. Building management system is, as it says, it looks after every aspect of the building. A battery management system looks after every aspect of the batteries. Connected to the battery management system are, each individual battery has its own built-in communication system, which monitors each of the cells inside of the batteries. I mean, inside of the lithium batteries there are basically like your cells in a torch. You have cells in the battery, and this looks after the BMS looks after the BMS itself looks after the battery cells themselves. Connected to the BMS is, so inside the batteries themselves they have small BMS systems that really just they look at their own internal temperatures, voltage and current input and output. It then connects, we then have an external BMS, which is the one that you can see connected on the link system over here. The batteries themselves talk via communications cable, which are these little cables that run up here. These little cables here, and they basically daisy chain together so that they then talk to the BMS through those small cables. They are all to do with communications and how they talk. There's a special way in which the batteries communicate to the main BMS system. Various communications protocols are used for this, and it happens across all types of industry where we use the communications links. So in essence, when something happens inside one of the batteries, i.e. perhaps the battery voltage goes perhaps low, that will in turn report to the main BMS, which is here, and the BMS will then pass it on, will do certain actions. Each of these things will have a certain action. For instance, the main buzz bar that comes through here, I'll actually draw that a little slightly different, has a switch internally, and should the battery voltage go low, and this can be set at various levels. It can be set at any type of level that you want. I've typically set it to 12 volts, which is quite high, but I've also got a pre-alarm at 12.5, so it'll tell us at 12.5 that the battery voltage is low. When sorry about the noise. Oh, they're cutting the grass. Oh, that's handy. So, when the voltage in each of the cells, these are the cells, each cell is approximately 3.5 volts, making up approximately 13 volts, 12 volts, 13 volts, depending on the levels. So if the total of these batteries goes below 12 volts, then this reports to the links distributor BMS, which then will disconnect the disconnect the live supply from, so the batteries themselves, which are the electricity is flowing this way, it'll completely disconnect and isolate the batteries. So the batteries themselves are now completely isolated. This is a protection to prevent the cells from going too low, because as I think we've spoken before, if the cells go too low there can be damage. If the cells are overcharged there can be damage. So effectively the BMS controls all of the current voltage in and out of the batteries. Plus, in addition to this, the link system also looks after, and I'll draw this in a slightly different colour, obviously each one of these legs that comes off has a fuse. So should anything happen between say here and here, we get a short for instance, then the fuse would blow and again would protect the battery. The whole essence of the link system and the battery management system is protection of the batteries. The pre-alarms, any pre-alarms that will come up, if I zoom in, you have a little buzzer here which is built into, which we have to install. You can see that there are cables. Let me get rid of all of my working so that you can see. These are the input and output cables. This is the pre-alarm buzzer which is installed. Whoops, get rid of that. Pre-alarm buzzer which is installed, which will buzz and tell me that there is a problem before the BMS completes an isolation. So inside of the BMS there is what they call a contactor, which is a electronic switch which allows you to disconnect that line, and the pre-alarm will go off before and tell me something's going to happen. So that's effectively what happens there. To the top part of the link system, sorry about the noise. Moving on to the top part of the link system, again is a buzz bar with connecting fuses, and this connects to our main isolating switches and then connects to the various items, i.e. like the inverter and the main system, which is a battery protection isolator. We also have that installed as well. So in essence, what the whole link system is about, it's about protecting the batteries. We're going to carry on with we're going to now talk about the Orions and how they work and how they're tied in with the alternator. So let's go off to this particular picture. Okay, so what we have here is we have two Orion DCD controllers. One's installed there and one's installed there. These are connected via isolators to the system, and these are shown here. That's the isolator, and there's another isolator. In essence, what they do, what the DCD controllers do, is they take the voltage from the alternator, which is this is the alternator. This is really the domestic alternator. They take that voltage, which is here, and they take that into the system, and they boost the voltage to a voltage level all the way through the system connected to the batteries. They take the 12.5 volts that the alternator will produce, which is really the maximum that it will produce, and they'll jump it up to 14.2 volts. This is to allow for charging of the batteries. You'll see in this area that we've additionally got, I'll rub out some of that, you'll see that we've got in this area so the DCD controllers control the input and output current of the alternator. You'll see on this schematic drawing, I'll just zoom in a bit, we've got the domestic alternator here, and we have a connection from the generator battery to the domestic alternator. Now we make that connection because the alternator will not charge lithium batteries correctly unless you have a means of, because this is a dumb, what they call a dumb alternator, it just means that it puts out a level of voltage. If that voltage gets cut off, so if we completely disconnect the alternator from any batteries, we will damage the alternator. The alternator needs to see a load all of the time. Hence the reasons why we've connected it to the generator battery. This provides a resistance for the alternator to supply to the generator battery continuously. The DCD controllers, they have a system on there which is, I'll zoom in a bit, it's this cable here, which allows the DCD controllers to disconnect the input, which is this side, from the output, which is this side. And so that's the plus and that's the plus. So they're inside the DCD controllers, there's a switch which allows you to disconnect them. The aim of this is that when lithium batteries charge, they will take as much charge as you want to throw at them. But then when they get to approximately 95%, they will then just say, I've had enough, I don't need any more charge, and they will stop taking any current. Obviously, if we didn't have the generator battery, it would mean that the scenario with the alternator, whereby it gets disconnected from a battery immediately, would happen, and we would have smoke coming out of the alternator. What the Orions do is they will sense that the batteries are getting up to, or should I say rather, the BMS will sense that the batteries are getting near to their completed cycle, and they will, via a cable, which I can zoom in on, will, via this cable that runs up here, they will switch off and disconnect the output from the Orions, thereby not overcharging the lithium batteries, and the alternator is still protected because it still has a resistance from the generator battery. So that's the completion of the alternator and the DCD Orions, and within reason how they roughly work. There is quite a lot more to the Orions which we could talk about, but that's a further in-depth video, which all of the information that I'm giving you can be got from the Victron website. If you go to Victrons, they can provide everybody with the information that they need on all of these items individually. We're just talking as an overview on the system. The next item we're going to talk about then is the Servo GX controller. We have a Servo GX controller, which is this here. It's a color GX, so we have a picture of that. In fact, I'll put up a picture now for you. We have a Servo GX. Basically, a Servo GX is, again, really another management system. It's basically a computer that allows you the interface, allows the user to interface with the whole system. Here we have a touch screen which allows you to view what is going on with all of the system in regards to voltages and levels and all of that sort of thing. One thing that is very interesting about it is that each of the fuses that are on the link system also are monitored, and therefore if any of them actually do blow, they're reported on the Color GX. In turn, this is connected to Victron's own VRM portal, which is on the cloud, and you can see there's an Ethernet connection there. We have a dedicated modem for the Victron remote system. The Servo basically controls anything to do with external monitoring of the system. For instance, we have a freezer which we've installed on the boat. We have a temperature sensor in the freezer to tell us whether the freezer is still frozen or not. That comes up on the Servo. We also have temperature sensors on the compartments for the batteries and the inverter cupboard. We have, let's go on a bit further, we have temperature sensors, which are these little things on in the cupboard, which allow us to say what the temperature is inside. Whilst we're here talking about monitoring, the center photograph here is the BMS, and is the connections to the batteries are here. These are the connections to the inverter and to the Servo, and these are all of the auxiliary connections that we're talking about for temperature monitor, relay, that sort of thing. The two other connections that are here are little distributor connections, and they actually connect to each of the distributing of the links system. So this will connect to the above fused links and the below fused links. That's what gives us the warnings about whether the fuses have actually blown or not. So that's the GX servo controller. Let's talk about the inverter, why we purchased the multi-plus inverter. You can see it fits into the system really nicely, and also you can see by our photographs, if I go to this one here, you can see that there is enough space for that to fit in. Unfortunately, our other inverter would not fit in that space, and in the end we decided it was worth going down the road of purchasing the new multi-plus. The multi-plus does a number of things which I'm not going to go into in this video, but just to say that we are looking, or we are integrating our generator system with the multi-plus, so that at high loads the generator will come on automatically and will take up the load. So let's carry on. We'll go back to the beginning now. So that's the reasons why we ended up buying the inverter. How the generator ties in with the whole system. The generator itself is a 240 volt inverted system, and we, as you can see here in this drawing, we have a generator battery at the top there, and we have the generator here with the blue and white. This is basically connected from the generator battery to allow the generator start. That's the generator start battery, and then the generator will then, as it shows here on the black cable, provide 240 volts into our 240 volt system. This then connects to the inverter, and the inverter then connects back out to our system for distribution. So that's in essence what happens there. We have on the generator we have a small charger, which is only a 7 amp charger, which provides a charge to the generator battery when the generator is on. If we're sitting, the idea of that is if we are sitting in a place for a week, or as can be a fortnight, it's possible that with the starting of the generator every day, that this particular battery would discharge, and therefore we wouldn't be able to start the generator. So we just really have a feed back from the main 240 volt supply, comes out here, goes back into a small 7 amp charger which charges the batteries independently, and that keeps that one going. So that's that. We've already spoken about how the link system provides isolation fuses across the buzz bar, but everything on the system has to have independent fuses. You'll see even the BMS has fuses. The servo itself has fuses. The DCD controllers have breakers on them. Each input output has a block of fuses. The solar array at the top here, that also has a breaker system which allows you to disconnect the solar panels from the MPPT, and the MPPT also has its own fuse system. So everything's independently fused, and we also have the isolations that you can see on the battery and the main isolator systems. So cable sizes. Cable sizes really are the main cables themselves. I've used 50mm cables for these. These are high rated cables. You need to calculate what cable sizes you're likely to need, but to give you an example, 3 kilowatt inverter pull anywhere between sort of 250 and 300 amps, but it's probably about 250. And because I've spread each battery over, because I've got 3 lithium batteries, maximum current that should be drawn from each of those batteries would be approximately 75 amps. The cables that I've used for the connections are rated probably at about 120 amps, so they're well above what we actually need. For the main switch, you need to have sufficient cable size. This one here in particular was I've actually put 70mm in for the main inverter, so the main inverter cables coming down here are 70mm cables. Very important to keep those cable sizes correct, because that is where your high current flow is going to be. It's going to be from the batteries through the buzz bars, from the batteries through the buzz bars into the inverter. That is where your high current load is going to be. So it's very important to make sure that they are of good quality and that the crimps are in connections are all connected properly. They're all sealed with heat shrink, and they're all sufficiently sort of cable tied and that sort of thing. This is just a picture showing the lugs that we put on. I installed all the lugs independently, and as I say, every single cable needs to be made sure that its connection is good. So that's that. So we'll go back to the main screen, and the last one, this one here, which is the control strategy and the fan cooling. I'll talk about the fan cooling first of all, and we'll start with this particular picture here. Let's get rid of this, just give me 2 minutes. Get rid of that. So we'll look at this picture here and put that one out of the way. What we have is we have a fan system which I've installed. This is looking down at the inverter cupboard, so you can see the inverter is sitting here, the 2 Orions are here because this is with the door closed. The link system is over here. You can only see part of it because the rest of it goes below this flooring. And then there is a fan system that sits here. 4 computer fans which are controlled by 2 controllers that I've made. I've bought the controllers from Amazon, temperature controllers, and we've installed those on so that the first set of fans here will come on between 25 and 27 degrees, and the second set of fans, which are here, will come on between 30 and 31 degrees. This is the sort of temperatures that we would expect perhaps to have in the cupboard area. So, moving on, these are the two temperature controllers that sit just above the inverter, so that when the temperature reaches the desired values, each of the two fans will come on. Moving on. At the other end of it, we have, you can see here that this is the output grill of the fans. This little device here is a temperature sensor to determine what the temperature is in the space externally. There's going to have to be a cover. I have to build a little cover to go over that. But the fan grill you can see there, behind that fan grill is where the 4 fans are. And then below, just here, there is a tube, which just at the back of that, I don't know whether I've got a picture here. Let's see if I can bring a separate picture in of the lower fan section, this one here. Also keep the, oops, here we go, get rid of that. Get rid of some of these marks. That's the only problem with this program. That's it. You can see the steps here. The cupboard is in this location, sort of here. Sort of fits in there. So that's the door that opens that way. Once we've taken the steps out, here's the, again, another shot of the door, and this board comes out, and then that moves open. So that is pretty much, it. Just to say, the control strategy for all of this is quite complex. I can go into it another day, but it would be too much to go into for this particular video. But I hope that helps. So, did any of that make sense to you?
Not to me, it didn't. But there you go.
It didn't make any sense to me. I hope people have got something from it, even if it's only what a buzz bar is. And hope you enjoyed the video. It's really all I can do in the short time that we have, and this video is probably far too long for what,
yep.
for the 15 minutes.
Yep. So I hope you didn't fall asleep.
Hope you didn't fall asleep. Did you fall asleep?
I could have done.
Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. So, bye for now.
Make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand.